Last week, I worked on old Bruce Wayne from Batman Beyond. Now I got Terry, Bruce, and Ace. My Batman Beyond collection is complete. But I can't have Bruce Wayne and not the OG Batman. So that's what I'm going to work on today. This animated Batman figure is awesome. 10 out of 10 on the sculpt. This is exactly how I remembered Batman from the cartoon. That said, I was actively trying not to buy him for the longest time. The reason is because of this other Batman figure. This is one of my very first action figures. I've had it for at least 30 years, and he's still in pretty good condition today. It just didn't feel right betraying my childhood toy, you know? However, this Batman is too small next to Terry and Bruce, and I believe it's technically not canon to Batman Beyond. That is why I finally decided to get this New Adventures Batman figure. Let's deconstruct this figure. I'm gonna be honest here. I'm not that familiar with this iteration of Batman. I was too loyal to the original animated version. Little me thought this one looked off. The designs of the characters were too simplified. And also, kids in the late 90s were very spoiled. There were so many cartoons to watch. Dragon Ball, Pokemon, Digimon, Spider-Man, Beast Wars, Reboot, Yu-Gi-Oh!, etc. I chose to watch the other cartoons over the new Batman Adventures. That said, props to the person who sculpted this Batman figure. This is how he looked in the cartoon, to the T. Some people may not like this, but I love how the cape wraps around his shoulders. Yes, it does restrict his movements, but just like Batman Beyond and Old Bruce, these ankle joints can barely keep the figures upright anyway, so I'm okay with the arms being restricted too. I do have some questions though. This figure comes with so many pairs of hands. I actually can't figure out what some of them are for, but I appreciate them nonetheless. But what is the purpose of this stand? It does not work with Batman at all. It also doesn't help that mine is loose as well. I would much rather have them provide an alternate cape instead. What I do like though is this animated cell reproduction card. It feels like a premium collectible item, so that is very nice. Overall, I don't see anything wrong with this figure, except maybe the color of his belt being too green. That said, my goal is to cel-shade this Batman figure to add to my animated Batman collection. This shouldn't be too difficult. So... Hello, this is Ken. I like making things. Whether it's repainting my figures or making diorama displays, I love making things look awesome. My goal is to elevate my figures so they can shine on my display. Join my DIY adventure as I ask myself the same question every week. Can I make it? I'm gonna start with the gray. I find the gray they used here a little bit on the light side. I feel like a slightly darker gray will look better, more solid. This light gray here looks a bit hollow. In order to create a convincing cel-shaded look, the figure must first be matte, and the color needs to be as flat as possible. No gradients and blurry edges. As for the cel shading, the style varies from show to show. I'm gonna base mine on how he looked from the flashback scene in The Return of the Joker. The shading itself seems pretty simple. The abdomen area is a shade or two darker, and then there are these thick stripes that go down his arms and legs. I used to not like doing the shading on the limbs, but I think I've gotten better at it over time. It's not giving tracksuit anymore. I think the key is to extend it a bit further to the back. As for the cape, there's this highlight that rests on the shoulders, and it's a similar shade as the dark gray I just used. The underside of the cape is also this color as well. I'm gonna have to do a couple of coats until the color is nice and even. And while that's drying, I'm gonna work on the body again. I want to do a bit of cleanup work. I have this really worn out brush here. The bristles are very short and scratchy. It is the perfect tool to scratch up any unwanted paint while not damaging the plastic. So let me wet the brush and clean up the grey paint on the bat symbol, the gloves, the underwear, and the boots. Technically, I can skip this step, but I want to minimize as much paint buildup as possible. Alright, now let me mattify the black with the black paint. I haven't gotten the Venta Black or Black 2.0 paint yet. I still want to try it, but for now, I'm going to continue using my regular black paint. It wouldn't make sense if this Batman has the blackest black but not Batman Beyond or Old Bruce. One more thing to fix on the body, the belt. The color they used has a bit of a green tint to it, and it looks rather dull. I'm going to mix a bit of yellow and tan color to brighten up the belt. It is going to take a couple of coats, but I can see it gradually get brighter with every coat I add. Can't forget the shading. I'm just going to line it up so it matches the shading on this leg. Okay, time to seal the paint with the matte spray. This is the part that I dread the most, the outlines. I'm using the micron pens again. On one hand, I like that the pens are easy to use, but I find that my hand sometimes slips when I use the pen, making it more stressful. But here it is, the belt is outlined. Time to work on the face. Last time I used the slightest shade here, but it ended up really pale. So I'm gonna try this one here. Hopefully I get it right this time. The skin color they gave this Batman is a bit too dark. It should be half a shade lighter and a bit more red. Okay, that is too red. I need to tone it down. So let me add a sheer layer of this warm white to neutralize the redness. And last but not least, I'm going to use the red skin color again as the shading color on the face. And some final touch up on the cowl. Alright, here's my Cel-Shaded Batman. I love it. The figure looks very two-dimensional. It works especially well with the animated body proportions. But I do notice that my grey has a bit of blue tint to it. It's not a huge deal for me. I actually prefer this cooler grey, because it reminds me a lot of the original animated Batman. This OG Batman figure came with a cloth cape, and as cool as that is, I just can never get the cape to drape over his shoulders right. That is the reason why I don't mind plastic capes. I don't have to finesse with the cape at all. It will always look good. And speaking of looking good, these two generations of Batman look awesome together. Old Bruce looked good next to Batman too. It's interesting to see how his body has changed as he aged. But back to this Batman figure. I think this is my best cel-shaded figure I've done. Not necessarily the technique or application, but the overall look in the end. This has such a cool 90s retro look to him. I may not be the biggest fan of this iteration of Batman, but I can't deny that this looks very nostalgic. It is a shame that he's not that fun to pose, but I guess that's just how these DC figures are. They look great, but not the most articulated. But he is Batman. He doesn't need to do any crazy poses. He just needs to stand there and he'll look cool instantly. What's your favorite animated Batman? I want to say the OG one from the early 90s. But I have to say, this new adventurous Batman figure has changed my mind. He's perfect. I can't stop staring at him. Even when he's standing next to Batman Beyond, he makes Terry look like he's his sidekick. And now, I have a really awesome animated Batman collection. Let's end this with a photo shoot. Batman is very photogenic. Every shot and every angle looks like a 2D drawing. I just couldn't stop taking photos of him. He has like no bad angles. But he does have trouble pulling off dynamic poses. Those tiny feet of his make it really challenging to balance. Oh well. It's okay. I'm likely gonna put him in a boring standing pose anyway. That'll work for me. Oh, speaking of Batman, I actually have the whole Batman and Robin wave. It may not be a good movie, but it was part of my childhood. I want to make a display for those figures, but I need to rewatch the movie to figure out which scene to recreate. If you have any suggestions, let me know. But until then, give this video a like and subscribe to see more content like this. I want to work on one more animated Batman figure before I move on to other things, so stay tuned for that. And as always, stay inspired and I'll see you soon. I can make it, so can you.